4 years ago, Frida picked up a penniless, amnesiac boyfriend who has now transformed into a crown prince. The first thing the man did after regaining his memory was secretly marry her, then spent $1 billion to build Frida's dream castle, coaxing her into becoming a princess. After marriage, Harley spoiled her rotten. No matter how busy, he'd return to the castle to cook for her, bring gifts, and pin her beneath him again and again. Every corner of the castle bore traces of their passion. He often cradled her in his arms, whispering dreams of their future together. She didn't know when it started. Harley had changed. His entire demeanor grew increasingly refined and noble. His attire became more and more distinguished, and even the time he spent with her dwindled. In this meticulously crafted castle, only Frida remained, comforting herself with sweet memories of the past, until one day, a woman claiming to be Harley's fiancée stormed into the castle, shattering her dreams completely. "I'm Harley's fiancée, thank you for saving him back then. You can leave now." Hannah, dressed in a sleek high-end professional outfit, exuded confidence and pride from her brows. She looked Frida up and down with disdain. Hannah's words pierced Frida's heart like thorns. Her fingers dug into her palms as she said, "You're lying. He doesn't have a fiancé. We're already married." "Married? I thought you were just poor, but I didn't realize you were stupid too." Fooled by a fake marriage certificate, the woman mocked. "How long has it been since he came back? Don't tell me you actually believe he's too busy to spend time with you." Hannah smirked and opened her phone gallery, swiping through photos one by one, all of them pictures with Harley. They attended events together, danced together, traveled together, pressed close to each other, Harley smiling dazzlingly, his heaven's favored son, not someone a lowly street vendor like you can lay hands on. "Here's $5 million, take it and scram. I won't believe anything you say. I only trust my husband." Frida bit her lip, though her tone lacked its earlier conviction. "Then dare to make a bet with me. Bet your marriage certificate is fake. Bet you're less important to him than I am. I'll give you 3 chances. If just once Mr. Harley chooses you over me, you win." Hannah paused, then added, "If you lose, you disappear forever." Frida paused briefly before nodding. His Harley had once said she would always be his first choice. As soon as the words fell, the familiar roar of an engine echoed through the courtyard. Harley was back. Hannah glanced at the doorway, her lips curling ominously at Frida. "The bet begins. You'll soon find out whether he truly loves you." Frida had no time to react before the woman fell to her knees, slapping her own cheeks fiercely. She stubbornly raised her head to look at Frida. "My relationship with Mr. Harley is innocent. It was wrong of me to appear before you. Please believe Mr. Harley. Don't quarrel with him because of me." "What are you doing here?" Harley immediately spotted Hannah kneeling on the ground. "Mr. Harley, I'm sorry. I didn't know Mrs. Ives would investigate me. I'm trying to explain our relationship." Hannah continued her self-punishing motions, looking helplessly at Harley. Harley grasped her wrist, forcefully pulling her up and shielding her in his arms. He turned cold eyes toward Frida, his gaze now carrying an emotion Frida couldn't decipher. "Darling, care to explain?" He released Hannah and slowly walked toward Frida. Frida's eyes flickered with pain as she countered without answering. "She claims to be your fiancé, is it true?" Harley's expression darkened imperceptibly as he reached out to smooth Frida's hair, his gaze as tender as ever. "Didn't I tell you? Your only role here is to be Mrs. Ives. You don't need to concern yourself with anything else." Why the sudden disobedience? Harley's fingers caught on a tangled strand of her hair, his brow furrowed slightly before he abruptly yanked, tearing out the entire knotted lock. "It hurts." Frida cried out in pain. Harley held her in his arms to comfort her. "Be good and it won't hurt." His tone carried a chilling edge. Frida couldn't help but shudder. She wanted to look up at Harley, but he pressed her head firmly against his chest. "She even said the marriage certificate was fake." Frida choked up, unable to finish before being interrupted again. "All right, wife." Harley didn't even hear what she was saying. "Director Shu isn't as idle as you are. Making a scene like this is wasting her precious time." Idle? It was clearly him who forbade her from leaving the castle again, rejected her proposal to attend school, and wouldn't let her go out to work. Frida gasped in disbelief. Harley wasn't like this before. The old Harley would listen to her patiently and answer all her questions. The old Harley would never intentionally hurt her as a warning, nor would he ever disregard her feelings and wound her with words. For years ago, Frida found Harley covered in wounds on a rainy night. He remembered nothing except his name. They lived together in a dilapidated, leaky house, worked desperately to earn money, and endured countless cold and hungry nights, in those days of poverty. They kept each other warm and took care of one another, gradually becoming each other's deepest love and only one. The current Harley had listened solely to Hannah's one-sided account from start to finish, refusing to hear her explanation or acknowledge her feelings. For a moment, Frida's heart felt as if it were being tightly gripped, aching so much she could barely breathe. "Don't blame Madam, Mr. Harley, she's just afraid of losing you," Hannah suddenly spoke, adding fuel to the fire. "After all, she's just a street vendor, she doesn't understand the interests of our circle." Harley frowned slightly, his expression darkening as he noticed Hannah's swollen cheek. "If Madam is still upset, you may continue punishing me. Once you've vented your anger, please bear with it a little longer and avoid causing trouble for Mr. Harley." Hannah wore an expression of restrained rationality, making Frida look like an unreasonable fool throwing a tantrum. Harley's expression grew increasingly grim as he released Frida from his embrace, visibly irritated. "Apologize." Frida shook her head in refusal. She had done nothing wrong and would not apologize. Harley's face darkened completely. At that moment, the little fluffy dog Buddy ran out of the room, wagging its tail as it dashed toward Frida. The next instant, Buddy was caught in Harley's hand, whimpering uncomfortably. "Harley, you're hurting Buddy." Frida reached out to take the dog. Harley didn't hand it over. Instead, he pinched Buddy's ears, watching it struggle incessantly, his brow furrowing in displeasure. "Buddy is getting more disobedient. It needs discipline. Fetch a Tibetan Mastiff." "What are you doing?" Frida startled. "Harley, don't." Harley remained silent, ignoring Frida's protests as he handed the fluffy ball to the bodyguard. The bodyguard quickly returned with a black Tibetan Mastiff, placing the fluffy ball before it. A pitiful dog's cry rang out as the Mastiff clamped down on the fluffy ball, its snow-white fur stained crimson with blood. "No, Fluffy!" Frida cried out, tears instantly welling up in her eyes. She rushed toward the door but was pulled back by Harley, who wrapped his arms around her. "Let me go. I need to save Fluffy." "Harley, how could you bear to hurt Fluffy?" Still being disobedient, Harley's gentle voice exploded like thunder in Frida's ears. Her body trembled violently as a wave of fear surged through her, and she dared not struggle anymore. Her eyes filled with shock and grief. The Harley before her now seemed so terrifyingly unfamiliar. That man isn't her Harley. Her Harley had nearly been hit by a car while saving her and Fluffy, promising to protect them forever. Her Harley would trust her wholeheartedly, never listening to any provocations, let alone hurting her for another woman. Her heart felt bound by coarse rope, waves of sharp pain washing over her until she could barely breathe. Frida felt a chill creep up from her feet, her movements freezing abruptly as she spoke hoarsely. "I'm sorry." Harley smiled contentedly. "Now that's my obedient wife." He smoothed Frida's hair and said, "I've got good news for you. We've found the relocation site of Grandma's grave. My birthday's in 10 days. After celebrating with me, I'll take you to bring Grandma home. You promised to bake my birthday cake yourself this year, so be good these next few days." Back then, to pay for Harley's medical treatment, she had sold their family's homestead land. She hadn't made it back in time to take Grandma with her, and Grandma's grave had been relocated, its whereabouts unknown all these years. Frida's heart was bleeding. She never expected Harley to use her grandmother's grave to force her obedience. She could only nod meekly. The moment she heard the door close, Frida turned and ran upstairs. She took out their marriage certificate and opened the Civil Affairs Bureau's mini-program to check. The words "no relevant certificate" found on the screen pierced Frida's heart like 1,000 cuts. Her marriage certificate with Harley was indeed fake. Frida collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Harley had been lying to her all along. In that case, she would leave. Once he took her to bring Grandma back in 10 days, she would leave him for good. Frida collapsed onto the cold floor, tears streaming uncontrollably until she sobbed herself into unconsciousness. Hazily, she felt herself being lifted into familiar arms. "If you don't obey, you can't stay by my side anymore. Be good and don't cause me trouble." Harley's deep voice murmured in her ear as Frida struggled to open her eyes. "Harley, why did you lie to me? You didn't have to marry me. Why use a fake marriage certificate?" Frida kept her eyes shut, clutching Harley's collar as she whispered the question. Harley suddenly bent down to silence her with a kiss, cutting off her words again. "Trust me, I'd never deceive you. I love you, wife." Frida stiffened, her heart aching with bitterness. Had Harley repeated his lies so often that even he believed them? "Darling, don't be upset with me. You're the only Mrs. Ives. No other woman matters as much as you. Wait for me obediently in the castle, and don't do anything you shouldn't." He straightened up, lifting her onto the bed, gently smoothing the stray hairs from her forehead, his words laced with warning. Frida trembled faintly at his touch, a chill spreading where his fingers had been. She swallowed the rest of her words, obediently closed her eyes, and the thought of leaving grew stronger. Harley, his fervent kisses wandered across her face. She instinctively tried to push him away. But he clamped down on her wrists. "Wife, don't reject me." His tone was chillingly cold, his grip so forceful it seemed he might crush her bones. There was a time when he'd pester her nightly for affection, leaving her too exhausted to rise from bed each morning. When she'd blushingly refuse, he'd coax her tenderly. "Wife, it's because I love you too much to stop myself." Never had he been this violently insistent. Frida bit her lip until it bled, tears falling once more. Suddenly, the weight on her body lifted as Harley got up to answer a phone call. "Wait for me." His tone instantly turned cold, the desire in his eyes fading as he walked straight out the door. Frida froze momentarily, her heart wrenching sharply. The person who called Harley away was Hannah. This marked the second time he'd chosen Hannah over her. The next morning, Harley's mom sent people to the castle and forcibly took Frida to the Ives family's old mansion. The old mansion was hosting a welcome party for Hannah, attended by nearly everyone from the upper social circle. Hannah, dressed in an expensive haute couture gown, stood side by side with Harley, her lips curled confidently as she effortlessly engaged with everyone. Harley held her by the waist, his gaze fixed on her with admiration and tenderness Frida had never seen before. Frida's heart gave a painful twitch, her eyes stinging slightly as she lowered her head. Two dazzling people standing together, what a perfect match they made. You're not good enough for Harley. What he needs is someone like Hannah, a woman with both family background and ability. She's the daughter of the Kyle family from Country A. Harley's mom stood beside her, voice dripping with coldness. "Did you think he hid you away in this castle because he loves you? He's just afraid you'll run around and ruin his reputation. Do yourself a favor, take the money and leave on your own. At least keep some dignity." Frida clenched her palms tightly, her throat dry and tight. In the past, she would have loudly denied it, telling Harley's mom that everything he did was out of love for her. But now, she couldn't utter a single word of rebuttal. "I understand." Frida spoke softly. "I don't want the money. I'll leave him." Harley's mom was visibly taken aback, scrutinizing her carefully. "Are you serious?" Frida nodded calmly. Harley's mom flashed a skeptical look in her eyes and smiled contemptuously. "I don't believe you've suddenly had a change of heart. People like you from the lower class have no credibility. I must use my own methods to achieve my goal and make you give up completely." Harley's mom smirked disdainfully as two suited bodyguards stepped forward from behind her and grabbed her arms. "What are you doing?" Frida struggled as she was dragged to the center of the living room. With a forceful push from the bodyguard, she knocked over a crystal decoration. The loud crash interrupted the ongoing conversations, plunging the living room into dead silence. All eyes turned to Frida, probing, scrutinizing, examining, disdainful, astonished. Frida lay sprawled on the ground in disarray, her house robe gaping open at the collar, her loosely tied hair now undone. Shards of glass had cut her face and limbs, staining her clothes crimson with blood. Her moist eyes brimmed with terror and confusion. "Is this the Ives family's maid? How dare she run out dressed like this? TSK, how audacious. Coming to this kind of occasion just to grab attention, stopping at nothing to climb the social ladder. Not bad looking. If it weren't at the Ives place, I'd take her for some fun. That figure must feel amazing. Be gentle with her. She might break easily. Ha ha ha." Disgusting remarks rose and fell around her. Frida shivered. She hurriedly stood up, only for shards of glass to pierce her soles. Instinctively, she stumbled sideways, straight into a stranger's embrace. Well, this little beauty has taken a liking to me." Frida was held by the sleazy rich second generation who shamelessly glanced at Harley. "Young Master Harley, she threw herself at me. Can I take her for some fun?" Frida trembled, lifting her eyes to look at Harley. Overwhelmed by grievance and fear, she instinctively struggled, wanting to plead for his help, only to hear him speak first. "Do as you please." Frida's words choked in her throat as tears instantly welled up and spilled over. She stared in disbelief at Harley, whose face was icy and whose deep eyes showed no emotion. Once, when she had set up a stall at the night market and was verbally harassed by 4 drunk men, Harley had immediately appeared and shielded her protectively. He fought against 4 of them alone, standing his ground despite having no chance of winning, the light in his eyes unwavering. He said, "Frida is the purest girl, the one I'd protect with my life. In this lifetime, no one can bully her." That night, he was badly injured, and she cried while tending to his wounds. Harley pulled her into his arms. "Don't cry, seeing your tears hurts me more than death." Now, the man coldly watched as she was bullied and humiliated, even agreeing to let others tease and toy with her. Frida closed her eyes, her heart wrenched with pain as she once again saw her place in his heart utterly insignificant. "A night of spring is worth 1,000 pieces of gold, so I'll take my leave now. Thank you, Mr. Harley." The rich second-generation heir, flushed with triumph, gripped her tightly as he dragged her out. Frida struggled, biting the heir's arm until he yelped in pain. Enraged, he raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. She was knocked to the ground, colliding with a table, her forehead split open again, blood gushing down as dizziness overwhelmed her. "Is this all you've got? Trying to take someone from me?" Harley sneered coldly, signaling his bodyguards to drag the rich heir out. "Mr. Harley, what should we do with this woman?" Hannah stepped forward, linking her arm through Harley's. Harley frowned deeply, his gaze dark and unreadable. Frida's consciousness grew increasingly hazy. She could no longer make out Harley's expression, and before passing out, all she heard was his icy voice. "Shameful display. Take him away." Tears mingled with blood as they streamed down. Frida's heart felt as if it had been torn open, the pain so intense it robbed her of consciousness. In her unconscious state, Frida dreamt of a dilapidated alleyway. The road, muddy and uneven from the recent rain, saw Harley carrying feverish Frida on his back as he ran through the downpour. The only raincoat was wrapped around Frida, while Harley, soaked to the bone, remained oblivious as he carried her 3 kilometers to the hospital. "Darling, don't be afraid, we'll reach the hospital soon. I'll work hard to earn money, build a castle you love, and give you a princess's life. I'll give you all the best things in the world. Please get better soon. I'd rather be the one who's sick or hurt. Please recover quickly." Frida was drowsy, her face streaked with tears. A chill traced her cheek as she gradually regained consciousness, meeting Harley's icy gaze. "Why won't you listen?" Harley rebuked coldly, his brow furrowed with displeasure. "Who gave you permission to crash the Ives family's banquet? Have you no shame, humiliating Hannah like this? You've disappointed me deeply." Frida stiffened slightly under Harley's torrent of accusations, sorrow welling in her heart. He showed no concern, only blamed her for ruining Hannah's banquet. Tears welled up in her eyes, her heart feeling as if countless ants were gnawing at it. Lowering her gaze to suppress the sorrow, she whispered an apology. "I'm sorry." Harley gave her a slightly flickering glance, softening his tone. "There's really no need for you to quarrel with me over Hannah. She's not your kind of person, your pursuits are different. Consider this a lesson learned. Don't go to places you shouldn't be." Frida bitterly tugged at the corner of her lips. What kind of person was she? What was she pursuing? Did he mean to say she was a lowly person who only sought wealth and glory? Harley's words stabbed into her heart like knives, her hands clenched tightly beneath the blanket, nails digging into her palms until they bled. An unprecedented sense of humiliation washed over her, leaving every cell in her body aching with pain. She could ignore Harley's mom's taunts and turn a deaf ear to Hannah's insults, but at this moment, Harley's attitude and words made it impossible for her to ignore. Every word he spoke seemed to remind her that the Harley she had loved was not the lofty heir of the Ives family standing before her. She was in too much pain to stay by his side any longer. After a moment, she mustered the courage to look up at him and said word by word, "Harley, let's break up. I know the marriage certificate was fake." Almost simultaneously, Hannah walked in through the door, her voice drowning hers out. "Mr. Harley, the evening event starts at 7, we should get going." Hannah's sudden appearance instantly caught Harley's attention, making him miss Frida's words. He flashed Hannah a smile, one she hadn't seen in ages. Hannah walked up to him, radiating equal brightness in her own smile. Though nothing improper passed between them, their interaction somehow stung Frida's eyes painfully. "Mrs. Ives, get some good rest. Mr. Harley and I will take our leave now." Hannah gave Frida a faint glance before following Harley out. Harley walked away so naturally that he didn't even spare Frida a glance, let alone ask what she had just said. For the next 2 days, Harley neither returned to the hospital nor contacted her. She handled her discharge alone and left by herself. Frida returned to the castle and began packing her belongings in her room, retrieving her identification documents and the clothes she had originally brought with her. She took out that fake marriage certificate once more. She still vividly remembered how she had danced with joy the day she received that marriage certificate. "Harley, from now on I'm officially certified as Mrs. Ives." She wept tears of happiness. Harley kissed away her tears, his own eyes reddening too. "Silly girl, don't cry, you're my one and only wife for life." His kisses grew deeper, trailing downward. That night, the man unleashed all his emotions, holding her tightly in his arms as he took her again and again with fierce intensity. In the throes of passion, his tears mingled with sweat as they fell, wishing desperately to become one with her. His acting is truly superb. And she was foolish enough to actually believe that just by taking a photo, Harley could get a marriage certificate for her. She even naively bought a commemorative frame to mount and preserve the marriage certificate. Frida clutched the fake marriage certificate tightly, forcing a smile at the corners of her mouth. She was not without self-awareness. Her status was unworthy of the Ives family's crown prince. She seemed to realize that Harley hadn't changed, but had simply returned to being his true self. There was an insurmountable class divide between them. What she had fallen for was always the Harley from the alleyway, the one whose eyes and heart were completely filled with her. Frida removed the photo frame and took out the marriage certificate, tracing her finger over Harley's name on the divorce papers as a single tear fell. Placing the fake marriage certificate on the table, she picked up the only wedding photo she had with Harley, forcing a faint smile at the corners of her mouth. It was a weekend when they passed by a newly opened photography studio and participated in their free wedding photo shoot promotion. Though it was just one small photograph, it had brought them immeasurable joy that lasted for so very long. They even bought a cake for celebration, breaking their usual frugality. That night, as they embraced intimately, he whispered hoarsely against her neck, "I'm sorry for letting you down, my love, believe me. I'll work hard to earn money and give you the grand wedding you deserve." Now standing at the pinnacle of power, Harley has likely long forgotten the promise he made back then. Even their marriage was just a sham. He deceived her with a fake marriage certificate. Frida cut the photo in half, tearing her wedding dress-clad image to shreds, leaving only the young man who once adored her on Harley's desk. Stepping out of the study, she heard footsteps downstairs, lowering her gaze. She happened to see Harley carrying Hannah as he walked in. Their eyes met, and Harley flashed a hint of panic in his gaze. "She drank too much covering for me at the drinks. Her place was too far, so I brought her back to stay the night. Don't overthink it." Harley frowned subconsciously, seeming somewhat irritated. "I'm tired, don't start a fight with me." Frida watched him quietly for a few seconds before nodding softly and saying, "Understood." Harley paused mid-motion. Surprised by her calm reaction, he opened his mouth to say something, only to see her already turning back to her room. Frida felt an unexpected tranquility within. Now, she had nothing to do with Harley anymore. She pushed her suitcase into the walk-in closet, then turned around to face Harley's slightly angry expression. "What are you packing for? Didn't you say you'd stop making a scene?" Frida offered no explanation, lowering her gaze as she walked past him. Suddenly, his hand gripped hers forcefully, causing her to stumble and fall into his arms. Frida paused, startled. When had his embrace become so cold? She tried to pull away, but he held her tighter, his voice icy as he said, "Hannah's clothes are dirty. It's inconvenient for me. You go help her change. Isn't there the maid?" Frida refused. "You've taken care of babies before. Your touch is gentler than the nanny's." "She's afraid of pain," Harley said flatly, then pulled her outside. Frida felt her nose sting as if her chest had been torn open, aching and cold. He only remembered she'd cared for infants, but forgot what he'd said when seeing her hands reddened from testing baby bathwater. "Frida, we're quitting. I'd rather work 24-hour shifts hauling bricks than watch you serve others. Even if it's just a baby, you're the treasure in my palm." Back then, Harley would carefully place her hand on his chest and gently apply hand cream for her, in his eyes. She was a treasure. Her heart fluttered slightly as Frida struggled and said, "Harley, I don't want to go. You promised you wouldn't make me serve others again." Harley paused mid-action and glanced back at her. "When did you become so affected?" "It's just helping her change clothes." Affected. She must have been too foolish to take every word he said as a promise. In an instant, Frida heard the sound of her heart breaking. And the last trace of obsession she held for the man before her vanished completely. "I'll go." Frida took a deep breath, unwilling to continue entangled with him. She would help him one last time. Frida withdrew her hand, picked up an unworn set of pajamas, and went to the guest room. In the room, Hannah lay sideways on the bed, her figure enchanting and cheeks flushed. Even asleep, she exuded a unique charm. Frida approached Hannah and was about to unbutton her blouse when her wrist was suddenly seized. "You're not drunk?" Frida startled, meeting her bright eyes and frowning slightly. "Frida, how else could I have had the chance to come find you if I didn't pretend to be drunk? Our bet isn't settled yet." Hannah smirked. "I surrender. I'll leave Harley." Harley. Frida spoke calmly, her heart no longer aching as before. "Surrender? You think you're worthy? I won't be satisfied until you're kicked away by Harley like a dog, a lowly street vendor like you. What right do you have to compete with me? For you, he actually had someone beat that rich kid into the hospital, and tonight he made me accompany him drinking." Hannah flashed a trace of hatred in her eyes. "Just because you saved him once." Hannah's face twisted, her entire being consumed by jealousy as she tightly gripped Frida's wrist. Frida shook off her hand, stood up and stepped back, frowning at her. "I don't know what you're talking about. If you have questions, go ask Harley." "Frida, don't you dare leave." Hannah climbed off the bed to chase after her, lost her balance, and fell heavily to the floor with a muffled groan. Frida glanced back at her lying on the carpet, confirmed she was unhurt, then quickly walked out. She hadn't gone far when she heard Hannah's heart-wrenching scream from behind. "Ah, that hurts," just as she was hesitating whether to go back and check. Harley rushed out from the master bedroom and went straight into the guest room. He was only wrapped in a bathrobe, shampoo still in his hair, his irritated red eyes filled with anxiety. As he brushed past her, he even bumped into her shoulder. She rubbed the sore spot where she'd been hit, wincing in pain. It had been a long time since she'd seen Harley act so recklessly. "The last time I saw her was when she had just returned to the Ives household. She was taken away for questioning by Harley's mom, and despite his own skin-deep injuries, he rushed to Harley's mom's side to take her away. Unbeknownst to her, Hannah had long since taken her place. "Frida!" Harley's roar snapped her out of her thoughts. "Get in here." Frida turned toward the door, her blood freezing instantly as she stared wide-eyed into the room. Hannah lay in a pool of blood, the crystal tree by the window having fallen on her. The blood-stained shards refracted eerie light, matching Hannah's gaze, both filled with venom. "Is this how you took care of her?" Harley's face darkened ominously as he lifted Hannah, pressing her close until their skin nearly touched. "She wasn't drunk, so I just..." Frida began to explain, only to be coldly interrupted by Harley. "I carried her back myself. Don't you think I'd know if she was drunk? Since when have you become so vicious, so unreasonable?" He casually kicked aside a crystal apple at his feet. "Who allowed you to put these useless, cheap things in the guest room?" A crystal apple rolled to Frida's feet. She bent down to pick it up, meeting Harley's murderous gaze. A dull ache spread through her heart, and she almost felt like laughing. "Harley, is this how you see me?" Harley frowned in silence. Frida forced a smile, holding back her tears as her voice trembled. "Do you still remember this decorative tree? This is the glass tree you personally fired for me. You said you'd make 99 apples to hang on it, and when it's full, would hold a grand wedding ceremony. Now there's only this one apple left, and you still detest it so much." Harley seemed to recall something, a flicker of guilt flashing through his eyes, gone in an instant as his expression turned cold again. "I'll keep every promise I made to you. No need for your constant reminders. She's injured. I'm taking her to the hospital." His icy gaze swept over the shattered fragments on the floor before he added coldly, "I'll have someone repair these. Go reflect in the third-floor prayer hall, and while you're at it, pray for Hannah's safety." With those words, he carried Hannah away without looking back. Hannah leaned against his chest, smugly raising an eyebrow at Frida with a victor's smile. Frida stood rooted to the spot, her heart feeling utterly hollowed out, the pain nearly suffocating. Frida swept up the shattered pieces from the floor and tossed them into the trash bin along with the intact crystal apple, forgotten promises, shattered glass trees. The fickle-hearted Harley, she wanted none of it anymore. She spent the entire night in the temple, the recent uncontrollable events replaying in her mind, Harley's increasingly cold gaze piercing her heart like a knife. Frida copied the heart-cleansing mantra over and over, convincing herself time and again to completely let go of the past emotions. At some point, exhausted, she fell asleep. As she stepped out of the Buddhist hall, she happened to see Harley. He had changed into a sapphire blue shirt and was adjusting his cuffs, his handsome yet aloof face showing slight exhaustion. Clearly, he hadn't slept all night. Hannah is injured. There's a banquet this afternoon, you'll accompany me. He glanced at Frida as he spoke. It was the first time he had asked her to attend a banquet with him. He expected Frida to be thrilled, but she merely nodded faintly and walked past him. Harley frowned abruptly, deeply displeased by her tantrum. Harley hired a professional styling team to give Frida a complete makeover. Unwilling to let her embarrass him at the banquet, Frida wore a purple mermaid tail gown that shimmered with scale-like reflections under the light, adorned with jewelry in matching hues. Her hair was swept into an elegant updo on one side, crowned with a diamond tiara, radiant and breathtaking. She resembled a mermaid princess. As Harley's companion, her entrance instantly captivated everyone's attention. Frida simply followed silently beside Harley, her face devoid of any extra expression. She had fantasized countless times about attending events with him, imagined countless scenarios where she could openly stand by his side. Now that it had actually come true, she no longer wanted it. Had it not been for Hannah's injury, he wouldn't have brought her along. Even when bringing her to events, he would merely introduce her briefly as his companion. There was a world of difference between their statuses. How could she ever be worthy of being his Mrs. Ives? Frida smirked self-deprecatingly and, while Harley was talking to others, quietly slipped away to sit alone in a corner. Before long, a woman in a black strapless gown approached, eyeing her with disdain. "Oh, isn't this Mr. Harley's companion? Why are you all alone here? Would you like me to keep you company for a while? I don't know you." Frida politely declined, rising to leave when the woman grabbed her arm. "Don't be in such a hurry. I heard you're the one who hurt Hannah." The woman's face darkened as she forcefully yanked Frida back to her seat. "Women like you will stop at nothing to climb the social ladder. Do you really think you can squeeze your way into high society? That outfit you're wearing costs 8 figures, more money than your ancestors could have earned in 10 generations. The woman's mocking words pierced like needles. Her poverty alone was a disgrace, as if even breathing was somehow wrong. "Who exactly are you?" Frida tried to pull her hand back, but the woman's grip only tightened. "You don't even recognize me, yet you dare dream of staying by Harley's side." The woman's face twisted with contempt. "Strip her clothes off and throw her out. A woman of her status has no place at an event like this." The woman shoved her forcefully, sending her sprawling to the ground. Several figures immediately emerged from the shadows, and leading them was none other than Hannah. "Julia, thank you for protecting me. After all, she's Mr. Harley's lifesaver. Wouldn't stripping her naked and throwing her out be too much?" Hannah walked over, looking down at Frida from above. A lowly creature like her should consider it a blessing to have saved Harley. Does she really think she can turn into a phoenix by clinging to this branch? Julia patted Hannah's hand and said with a smirk, "You don't know this yet, but Harley deliberately brought her here for me to vent your anger." In Harley's eyes, "You're the most important." Frida lay on the ground, her body trembling violently. Had Harley brought her here just to let Hannah vent her anger? No, that couldn't be. Harley wouldn't treat her like this. Frida bit her lip hard, but their unrestrained laughter and chatter gradually shattered her defenses. She tried to stand and leave, only to be blocked by bodyguards who shoved her back into her original seat. Before she could react, a stiletto heel stomped on the back of her hand, its slender spike grinding repeatedly as excruciating pain shot through her. "Do it." Julia withdrew her foot and signaled the women to act. "Tear that dress off her, she doesn't deserve to wear it. Let me go." "Why are you doing this?" Frida struggled, her vision blurring as she desperately looked toward Harley in the distance. Harley instinctively glanced in her direction, and with just one look, his brow furrowed. "Harley, save me, Harley," she cried out instinctively before Julia clamped a hand over her mouth, her vision blurred with tears as she gazed longingly at Harley. But Harley's eyes were fixed on Hannah standing before her, raising a hand to beckon Hannah over. As if he had never witnessed Frida being bullied, Harley had tacitly allowed Julia to humiliate her from the very beginning. He had deliberately brought her here to make her recognize her place and status. Without his protection, she couldn't take a single step forward in this circle. Frida's heart shattered instantly. She stopped crying out, only biting her lips fiercely until the metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. Her evening gown was violently torn, her fair arms covered in fingerprints and scratches. Just as her clothes were about to be completely ripped apart, Julia spoke up to stop them. "Enough. Throw her out, Frida. Remember today's lesson, don't dare covet someone who isn't yours. If there's a next time, the punishment won't be so light." Frida was thrown out of the banquet hall in tattered clothes. Greeted by a crowd of reporters and streamers, with countless cameras and live broadcast lenses pointed at her, the camera flashes were so blinding she couldn't open her eyes, curling her body tightly as she dared not lift her head. "Miss, what happened to you? Caught being the other woman? Or did you fail to seduce a rich man and get kicked out? Clothes all torn to shreds? Why not just strip her naked while you're at it? Would have been quite a sight, not bad looking at all." Yet she insists on straying from the right path. These young girls nowadays, all wanting to be homewreckers, how can they be so shameless? The paparazzi camped outside the banquet kept snapping photos of her, their vulgar insults blurring into indistinct noise in her ears. All she wanted was to get away from this place as fast as possible. Frida struggled to her feet from the ground, barely steadying herself when someone shoved her, sending her tumbling back down. Her scraped knees burned with pain, jolting her back to some semblance of clarity. She rose once more with a furious roar. "Move! Let me through, you wretched bitch! You scared me half to death." A haughty influencer in front of her recoiled in shock before slapping her across the face. "Looks like the main wife beat you up. What gives you the right to scream like that?" Staggering backward, she barely caught her balance, staring at the camera lenses nearly thrust into her face. She hissed through gritted teeth, "Leave now, or I'm calling the police. Who are you trying to scare? We're just live streaming normally. Why would we be afraid of you calling the police? Look at how you're dressed. We should be the ones reporting you for public indecency." "That's right. Shameless. She's practically naked. Look. Her pasties are about to fall off. Is she doing this on purpose for attention? She's obviously here to seduce men. Wonder which poor guy caught this slut's eye." Frida was cornered by them until she couldn't move. In the chaos, Frida saw Harley and Hannah walk out. His indifferent gaze swept over her, lingering only for an instant before withdrawing. Frida instinctively wanted to approach. Harley gave her no chance, driving away without hesitation. Her movements froze as if someone had torn open her chest, leaving a raw, bleeding wound of pain. How ironic, the man who swore to protect her with his life stood by indifferently as she was humiliated to this extent, then walked away unscathed. Frida suddenly crouched down, hugging her knees as laughter burst from her lips. Her laughter grew louder and wilder, until it dissolved into uncontrollable sobs. "Then perhaps my Harley died the day his memories returned. He's not my Harley." The people around her were frightened by her appearance, cursing under their breaths as they backed away. Seeing her alternating between laughter and tears without pause, they dared not stay any longer. After who knows how long, when the surroundings were completely empty, Frida finally stood up from the ground and slowly walked to the police station. She was going to report it to the police. Frida sat wrapped in a blanket at the police station, her pale face covered in slap marks. Her nails dug fiercely into her palms as she struggled to remain calm while recounting the entire incident in detail. The female officer cast a skeptical glance at her. "Your relationship with Mr. Harley, was it financial support, or?" Frida paused for a moment. What was her relationship with Harley? After hesitating briefly, she smiled with relief. "We have no relationship." The female officer coughed sharply, frowning disapprovingly at her. "How can we investigate if you don't tell the truth? Harley's relationship with me is important to this case. Then you can invite him over to ask." Frida's eyes were unusually calm. She also wanted to know what Harley considered her to be at this moment. "Sign here." The officer, somewhat guilty, stopped pressing further. Frida signed and left, bumping into Harley, who was rushing in. Drop the case. Harley pulled Frida aside as soon as he saw her, frowning coldly. Frida shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around her as her blood seemed to freeze in an instant. They hurt me, and I don't even have the right to call the police. Don't make me repeat myself. Harley's gaze was piercingly cold. This matter involves the reputation of the Ives family and Hannah. You just got a little scared. Was it really necessary to come file a report? What did you just say? Frida's emotions teetered on the edge of collapse as she stared at him through tear-filled eyes. Do you even know my hand was broken? Those people called me. Enough. Harley cut her off impatiently. It's not like you've never been insulted before. Why act so delicate now? I have things to do. Go withdraw the complaint. What if I say I don't want to? Frida trembled all over and couldn't help bursting into tears. Harley frowned, displeased by her disobedience. Then don't bring Grandma home. Let her stay out in the wilderness. Frida's pupils suddenly shook, her heart feeling as if torn by invisible hands. Her lips quivered as she stammered. Harley, what did you say? He was threatening her with Grandma's grave. Harley darkened his gaze, visibly uncomfortable. He fell silent, gripping her hand as he forcibly led her back to withdraw the case. The man clenched her already broken hand tightly, making her sign the case withdrawal confirmation. Frida didn't resist, her body and mind numb with pain as cold sweat mingled with tears streaming down her face. Her heart turned completely cold toward Harley. Harley took her back to the castle and summoned the family physician to tend to her wounds. That night, Frida never spoke another word. Harley simply sat quietly by her side. After she fell asleep, Harley left the castle. In the following days, online discussions about Frida's alleged prostitution favor scandal and her expulsion from the banquet hall rapidly escalated. Photos of her being thrown out of the banquet hall wearing only torn clothes were everywhere. AI-generated photos and videos of her with various men spread rapidly online. She was labeled as a cheap prostitute. Frida was doxxed by countless people. Her former residence was vandalized, and even her classmates couldn't bear the harassment, stepping forward to hurl abuse at her. Some rumors claimed she was Harley's kept canary, so Harley ostentatiously brought Hannah to various business collaborations and announced they'd been dating all along. Frida saw daily updates about Harley and Hannah, how he lit the sky lantern for her at auctions, bought her yachts, land. They announced their engagement at his birthday banquet. Frida felt nothing anymore, merely counting the days until Harley's birthday. The day before his birthday, Harley returned, seemingly drunk, collapsing asleep beside Frida. Frida didn't change his clothes for him as she used to, but silently left the room instead. The next day was Harley's birthday. Frida got up early to make him a bowl of longevity noodles and began preparing ingredients for a cake. You don't have to do this with your injured hand. Harley frowned as he watched her bustling figure. Will you take me to pick up Grandma after eating the longevity noodles? Frida looked up at him, noticing his momentary evasive gaze. Not going. Frida curled her lips into a mocking smile. Having just received Hannah's message, it was the Ives family who bulldozed Grandma's grave back then. From start to finish, Harley never managed to locate Grandma's burial site. He was merely lying to manipulate her obedience. Frida didn't feel the heartbreak one might expect. Her feelings for Harley had long turned to ashes. Her only sorrow was failing to find Grandma. Watching Frida's smiling face, Harley's expression darkened as if about to drip with gloom. Wife, stop fooling around. You've caused too much trouble lately. How many times must I tell you to stop making scenes? Harley snapped irritably, striding up to her and gripping her injured hand. Frida drew a sharp breath, meeting his gaze calmly, her eyes devoid of any warmth. Harley suddenly felt a pang of panic. Just as he was about to speak again, his phone rang. Hannah's voice came through. Mr. Harley, the birthday banquet is ready. When will you arrive? Is Mrs. Ives coming? Should we arrange a press conference to clarify the rumors about Madam? Harley released his grip and stepped aside. No need. I'll be there shortly. Harley hung up the phone and walked back to Frida. There's something very important I need to do today. Be good and wait for me. When I come back, we'll bake the cake together, and then we'll go see Grandma. Frida curled her lips in self-mockery. Even now, he was still lying to her. I won't wait for you anymore, and I won't tolerate your threats and deceit again. Harley was closing the door when Frida spoke calmly, continuing her injured motions. She kept her promise and baked Harley the cake. Then, she changed back into the blue t-shirt and ripped jeans she had worn when she first arrived at the castle and retraced her steps through it. The archway, the carousel, the swing, the pool, the starry ocean floor, every scene was Harley's personal creation. Each one having once brought her happiness and joy. She stood before the wishing tree at the entrance. Untying the red ribbon fastened to its branch, the very one she and Harley had tied there on their first day living there, she dug up the time capsule buried beneath the tree, lit her past wishes and the ribbon together, and watched them turn to ashes, just like their hollow marriage. Frida placed the burnt ashes back into the capsule. After casting one last deep glance at the opulent castle, Frida grabbed her luggage and walked away without looking back. She left behind the castle that had trapped her, left behind this marriage that should never have existed. Harley, from now on, you shall be the moon in the sky. I am but clay in this mortal world. We shall be strangers at world's end, never to meet again in life or death. The clear sky suddenly broke into heavy rain. Harley sat absent-mindedly by the floor-to-ceiling window. Lately, there seemed to be something off between him and Frida, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Last night, he insisted on going back despite being drunk, wanting to give her an easy way out, yet that woman ended up leaving him alone in the room. When he left in the morning, he didn't take Frida's words, "I won't wait for you," to heart. He simply thought she was throwing another tantrum. As time passed, an inexplicable unease began to stir faintly within him. Frida really wouldn't wait for him anymore. Harley's heart suddenly sank, his brows knitting tightly together. Then a confident smirk tugged at his lips. "Impossible. Frida can't live without me. She's afraid of thunder. She's probably on the verge of tears by now, waiting for him to come back and stay with her." Harley took out her phone, only to find that Frida hadn't reached out to her, not even a birthday wish. In an instant, his expression darkened further. Frida, was she really giving him the cold shoulder? Thinking about what had happened these past few days, he had been inseparable with Hannah. So her anger was justified. After today, he would set aside some time to properly make it up to her. Truth be told, it was also Frida's own fault. She had to go and make a scene in front of the Ives family for no good reason. If she didn't suffer a little, things wouldn't be easily resolved. The cigarette between his fingers burned to ash unnoticed, his mind completely occupied by Frida's sullen face. "Mr. Harley, we should go out now." Hannah extended her hand toward him. Harley flicked away his cigarette butt and stood up, straightening his suit. In a daze, he seemed to see Frida. Last year on his birthday, Frida said she would make him a cake. Without proper tools or ingredients, she toiled in the kitchen for hours, only managing to produce a colored steamed bun. Her eyes reddened as she apologized. "I tried my best." But he pulled her straight into his embrace, silencing her with a kiss that left her whimpering and pleading for mercy all night. "Mr. Harley. What's wrong?" Harley snapped out of it and shook his head slightly. "Let's go." He signaled Hannah to take his arm. Yet the image of another woman flashed through his mind. She was taller than Hannah, more composed, and even more alluring. Harley suddenly frowned. He missed Frida more than usual today and was determined to end the banquet as early as possible. "Mr. Harley, today's press questions include those about the engagement. Should we revise them in advance?" Hannah asked tentatively. She no longer wanted to pretend to be Harley's fiancée, she wanted to become the real Mrs. Ives. Harley didn't hear clearly and responded absent-mindedly. "Let's leave it at that." Hannah smirked secretly as she led him to the main venue. Harley and Hannah became the center of attention the moment they appeared. "Mr. Harley and Director Shu make such a perfect match." "Yes, Mr. Harley and Director Shu, when are you getting married? We must attend the wedding." "That's unnecessary to ask, of course they'll be married soon." The crowd flattered Harley and Hannah. Hannah blushed. Harley frowned, instinctively rejecting the topic they were discussing. "Who are you saying is getting married?" The group immediately fell silent, exchanging glances before wisely dispersing. Hannah's smile froze on her face. "What happened to Mr. Harley?" Harley didn't answer but instead ordered, "Deliver all the latest seasonal clothes and bags to the castle, and arrange for a top pastry chef to go there as well. Are these preparations for Frida, Mr. Harley? Since Frida's matter remains unresolved, perhaps you should maintain some distance from her for now." Hannah flashed a trace of resentment in her eyes while pretending to consider Harley's best interests. Harley's expression instantly turned icy. "Are you telling me how to do things?" "No, I'll go arrange it right away." Hannah's face paled momentarily, unsure why Harley had suddenly changed his attitude. She turned and left unwillingly. Harley watched her retreating figure, yet his mind kept returning to Frida. Every time she saw him with Hannah, the woman must have been heartbroken. Fortunately, it's almost over. After his 28th birthday, he will officially inherit the Ives family's entire fortune and never be constrained by anyone again. He can finally follow his heart without suppressing his love for Frida. The first thing Hannah saw upon her return was Harley, his lips curved in a smile. Hannah curled her fingers slightly, observing the change in his expression, her heart suddenly skipping a beat. "Mr. Harley, what are you thinking about? You look so happy." "Nothing much." Harley suppressed his smile, quickly greeted a few important people, and finalized several cooperation intentions. Julia and Harley's mom wheeled in the cake, signaling for Harley and Hannah to join them on stage. "Welcome everyone to my brother's birthday celebration. Taking advantage of today's occasion, I'd also like to announce some happy news." Julia took the microphone and spoke with deliberate mystery. "My brother Harley and Hannah are getting married on the 15th of next month," Julia announced, followed by applause and cheers from the crowd. Only Harley remained silent, his frown deepening as he snatched the microphone from Julia's hand. "I won't be marrying Hannah." As Harley's words rang out, chaos erupted instantly. "What nonsense are you spouting? You and Hannah have built up the perfect momentum these past few days. Announcing the wedding today would tie the Kyles and the Ives together, killing multiple birds with one stone." Harley's mom deliberately unplugged the microphone and pulled Harley aside to lecture him. "Don't cause trouble at a time like this," Harley's mom warned. Hannah was the daughter of the Kyle family from Country A. As the Kyles were returning to their homeland to expand their business, they were seeking suitable family alliances, marriage being the fastest method. "Has the Ives family fallen so low as to seek development through arranged marriages?" Harley scoffed, shaking off her hand. "From now on, no one interferes with my decisions." "What do you mean by that?" Harley's mom panicked, immediately thinking of Frida, that lowly street vendor girl, a poor girl without family background. Even if she saved Harley, isn't worthy to step through the doors of the Ives family. "Don't even think about being with that lowly woman. I won't acknowledge her as the Ives family's daughter-in-law. Today is your birthday, you'd better watch your step." "Not just me. But your grandfather and father won't agree either." Harley smirked, dismissing her words with disdain. He walked back to the cake and raised his voice. "I also have an announcement to make. I've been married for a long time. Thank you all for coming today. The party will continue, but I'm going home to my wife." Harley finished speaking and hurried off the stage. Hannah grabbed his arm tightly, her eyes glistening with tears. "Mr. Harley, don't go. How am I supposed to handle this if you leave? Tell them the truth." Harley pulled his hand away and walked off without looking back. The crowd erupted in murmurs, whispering among themselves, but no one dared to stop Harley, as the clamor of the banquet hall faded into the distance. Harley's desire to return home grew more urgent. He drove recklessly through the rain, running 5 or 6 red lights before finally reaching the castle. The car pulled into the yard. Yet his heart inexplicably fluttered with unease. For some reason, he stood frozen at the door, too afraid to turn the knob. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door and called out a name he hadn't uttered in ages. "Frida, Frida, your husband's home. Frida, today's my birthday. Please stop being mad at me." His words were met with silence and the ticking of the clock. "Frida." Harley's panic grew stronger. He quickly turned on all the lights, flooding the room with brightness. The living room was neatly arranged, everything as usual, without any changes. The bedding in the bedroom was clean, in Frida's favorite light blue hue. The expensive clothes and cosmetics he bought were all there, and not a single luxury item was missing from the walk-in closet. Harley ran from the first floor to the third, checking all the places Frida liked to stay. Everything was there except for Frida herself. Was she still angry with him? Is it because Hannah claimed to be his fiancée? And he didn't explain, but he thought she understood him best and didn't need explanations. The Ives family didn't want them together and would surely find another woman for him. Was it because she was bullied at the banquet, and he didn't stand up for her? But what she didn't know was that he had beaten that man into the hospital, severed his lineage, and even brought down his company. How could he allow anyone to bully his beloved? Was it because he said he wouldn't come back to celebrate her birthday with her? But she knew he couldn't truly take control of the Ives family until after his 28th birthday. This act, he had to see it through. He knew she had been wronged, and he would make it up to her properly. From now on, no one would be able to bully her. Frida, don't scare me like this. Please come out. Harley took out his phone and called Frida. The ringtone sounded from the kitchen. Harley's body stiffened before he hurried into the kitchen. Frida's phone lay alone on the table, next to a nearly melted unwrapped cake. Though not exquisitely made, one could see the care put into it by its creator. The cake bore only a tiny drawn heart, with no other decorations. It was Frida who made it for him with her own hands. Harley blushed with excitement as he dipped his finger into the cream and tasted it. Frida's skills are amazing, so sweet. Harley stood up and began searching the castle for Frida. For the first time, the castle felt enormous, as if he'd never reached the end. Frida, come out, please stop hiding from me. If you don't come out soon, the cake will melt. The rain outside grew heavier. Harley was soon drenched as he searched the front and back yards. Yet there was still no sign of Frida. The man returned indoors, meticulously checking every corner. He rummaged through item after item, verifying each one. Everything he had bought for Frida was still there. Only the shabby suitcase that Frida had brought to the castle was missing from the wardrobe, along with her blue t-shirt and ripped jeans. He also saw on the table a half-cut 2-inch wedding photo. His pupils suddenly constricted. A suffocating thought struck him. Frida had abandoned him. No, he refused to believe it. How could his Frida ever leave him? They had relied on each other for over 3 years. Swearing to stay together for life, never to part, she would never leave alone. Harley was distraught, clutching the photo tightly. His phone suddenly rang, startling him so much that the photo fell to the ground. He bent down to pick up the photo, only then noticing the marriage certificate placed on the table. The red cover of the marriage certificate bore crumpled creases from being gripped, with deep nail scratches clearly visible under the light. Harley held his breath, fingers trembling slightly as he opened the marriage certificate. The wedding photo on the marriage certificate had been cut in half. Frida's side was gone, leaving only his own lonely image pasted there. Frida's name had been crossed out by her own hand, with a fake character scribbled beside it. Each stroke of ink seemed to mock Harley's arrogance. Harley stood thunderstruck. Impossible. Frida, how could she know the marriage certificate was fake? Harley's phone kept ringing, but he seemed oblivious to it. He kept staring at the fake marriage certificate until his eyes turned bloodshot, tears streaming down his face. At some point, Julia stormed into the castle in a rage. Harley, what's wrong with you? Do you have any idea how chaotic the banquet became? You abandoned Hannah for some lowly street vendor girl. Do you know how heartbroken she is? Julia lashed out at Harley. I'm talking to you. Answer me. Seeing Harley remain silent, Julia reached out to snatch the marriage certificate from his hand. What are you staring at that worthless booklet for? A marriage certificate. Julia flipped it open and froze on the spot, her eyes widening in disbelief. When did you marry that wretched street vendor girl? She examined it meticulously, turning it over and over, only letting out a sigh of relief after 4 or 5 readings. It's fake. Thank goodness it's fake. If you'd really married that street vendor, the Ives family would be in complete disarray. Harley suddenly changed expression, snatching back the marriage certificate, his gaze fixed intently on it. Could he tell at a glance that it was fake? Frida had left angrily because she found out about the marriage certificate. It doesn't matter that she's gone. She loves me so much, she'll come back as soon as I coax her to sleep. His eyes burned hot, his chest aching unbearably. Harley clutched the fake marriage certificate tightly, his chest heaving violently. Frida was just angry. He would explain properly to her. He had his reasons. She wanted to get married, so he'd just get a real marriage certificate with her, and everything could go back to how it was before. His Frida wouldn't really stay mad at him. Harley, what are you thinking? You're not seriously considering marrying that street vendor girl, are you? She must have found out the marriage certificate was fake and is throwing a tantrum by running away. Don't be fooled by her. She's just after your money. Who knows? Maybe even saving you back then was part of her scheme. Julia watched Harley's expression, her temples throbbing as she grabbed Harley's hand and pleaded, "Shut up." Harley shoved her away violently. This was all your terrible idea. Teaching her a lesson would make her behave. If she doesn't forgive me, I won't let you off either. Julia fell to the ground unprepared, glaring at Harley with exasperation. "Have you lost your mind? I'm your sister, you're blaming me for some lowly woman." Harley grabbed her arm and, ignoring her screams, locked her in the third-floor prayer room. "Sister, reflect for a few days. Once I find Frida, you'd better apologize properly. I'll let you out only after she forgives you. Are you insane, locking me up for a woman? Harley, let me out." Harley acted as if he hadn't heard, returning to the living room on the first floor, still clutching the fake marriage certificate. He regretted it. He shouldn't have entered into this sham marriage with Frida. Back then, he had just returned to the Ives family. Freshly recovered memories left him struggling to adapt to sudden schemes and high-pressure work, often fearing he might drop dead from exhaustion. Frida would always hold him in her arms when he was on the verge of breaking down, whispering comforting words. "Harley, if you want to stay here, I'll stay with you. If you want to leave, we'll go back to the alley. I'll always be by your side. My Harley is the strongest, no one can match my Harley." He feared that marrying her for real would make her a divorcee and ruin the rest of her life. Later, when the situation stabilized, he completely reverted to his former self, the Harley of old. He actually developed disloyal thoughts, feeling that Frida was beneath him. He was wrong, dead wrong. "Harley, you could have refused to marry me. Why deceive me with a fake marriage certificate?" In his daze, Harley saw Frida's tear-streaked face, her reddened eyes accusing him. His throat tightened, wanting to explain, but not a single word could escape him. He instinctively reached to embrace her, only to find Frida's face instantly dissipate. It was all just his imagination. His heart felt as if sliced by a sharp blade, endless agony seeping into his nerves as he buried his head in his arms in torment. Belatedly, he realized Frida had truly abandoned him. The heavy rain outside continued unabated, the night swallowing all hope like a ravenous beast. Harley sat through the night in despair, his heart aching endlessly. Early the next morning, Harley's mom and Hannah burst into the castle. Startled by Harley's disheveled appearance, Hannah hurried over and crouched before him. "Mr. Harley, are you all right? You look terrifying." Harley lifted his head, crimson eyes fixed on her without uttering a word. Hannah trembled slightly. "What's wrong? Whatever the problem is, I'll help you solve it. Where is Frida? Frida, come out right now. What exactly have you done to my son?" Seeing this, Harley's mom behind them grew furious, shouting as she marched upstairs. Harley didn't stop her. He hoped Harley's mom could help summon Frida out. Harley's mom's angry roars echoed through the house. Minutes later, she returned downstairs with Julia, whose eyes were swollen and red. "Harley, you imprisoned your own sister." Harley's mom glared at Harley. Julia burrowed into Harley's mom's arms wanting to complain, but meeting Harley's icy gaze, she immediately fell silent, only able to silently shed tears. "Frida leaving is just perfect. You can marry Hannah now. A lowly street vendor girl isn't worthy of the Ives family." Harley's mom said loudly, "Hannah wouldn't mind your past with that street vendor girl either. Since you've lost your memory, Auntie, we should find Miss Frida first. She's all alone with nowhere to go. What if something happens to her?" Hannah observed Harley's expression and said cautiously, "Fine, find her first, then make her scram. At worst we'll pay her more. Troublesome orphan girl with no power or connections." Harley grew even more irritated by the noise. He stood up abruptly and left, knocking over Hannah, who was squatting in front of him without stopping. "Ouch!" Hannah cried out in pain, looking at Harley with grievance. Harley didn't pause his steps. "All of you, leave. Don't come bothering me again." Harley's mom, seething with anger, released Julia and went after him. Harley suddenly turned around and glared at her, freezing her in place as she watched them being escorted out by the bodyguards. The 3-day rain had finally stopped, and Harley stepped into the courtyard again. The castle looked beautiful after the rain. It had been so long since he'd taken a proper look at this castle. He'd once promised to push Frida on the swing every day, to ride the carousel with her, to watch the starry ocean depths together. He broke his promise. Harley felt a pang of heartache, as if seeing Frida's lonely figure standing before the merry-go-round. "Frida, I'm sorry." Harley walked alone through the entire castle, finally stopping beneath the tree at the entrance, where he dug up the time capsule he and Frida had buried in the soil. Seeing a pile of black ashes, a sharp pain pierced his chest, and tears instantly welled up in his eyes. Frida had destroyed everything between them, leaving no room for reconciliation. After 3 sleepless days without food or water, Harley finally collapsed unconscious, before losing consciousness. He seemed to see Frida's figure wearing a blue t-shirt and ripped jeans, dragging her small suitcase out of the castle gates. She said, "Harley, goodbye." Harley remained unconscious for many days, during which he kept seeing the same scene over and over. It was a rainy day, covered in blood. He collapsed at the mouth of an alley, grabbing at the pant legs of every passerby, begging them to save him. With all his strength, he kept repeating one phrase, "Save me, and I'll repay you." Everyone wanted to avoid trouble and quickened their pace to leave. Only Frida stopped. She carefully examined his injuries, called an ambulance for him, paid his medical expenses upfront, and stayed by his side until he woke up. Facing his amnesia, Frida didn't show impatience either, merely suggesting he work to repay her for the medical expenses. And so, he stayed by her side, living together in that poor and shabby alley. She carefully taught him how to cook, took him to set up street stalls, worked part-time jobs with him, and in those most impoverished days, the most passionate love blossomed. Later, he remembered everything and returned to this devouring Ives family. To protect her, he hid her away and began to grow distant, to fully take over the Ives family. He accepted the woman Hannah arranged by the Ives family, thinking he could hide it well, but she found out. Frida asked him tearfully. Hannah was really his fiancée. He offered no explanation, yet felt she shouldn't interfere in his affairs. He knew full well Frida had been framed. Someone deliberately took her to the banquet to humiliate her, yet he didn't stand up to defend her, nor did he publicly acknowledge Frida's status. Harley cried, finally realizing it was his heart that had changed. Having returned to high society, he actually felt the pure Frida was no longer worthy of him, so he deserved to lose her. The images in his dream grew increasingly blurred. The Frida who once smiled at him walking further away until she vanished from his dreams. "Frida, don't go, I beg you." Harley opened his eyes and reached out toward the empty air, his tears having long soaked the pillow. "Mr. Harley, there's a problem with the company's financing." The assistant burst through the door in a panic, fully rousing Harley from his sickbed. "Speak slowly." He turned his head away, regaining his composure. "During your coma, the company has." After briefing Harley on the recent company situation, the assistant helped him check out of the hospital. Harley returned to the company to handle issues while simultaneously sending people to search for Frida's whereabouts. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed, yet Frida remained missing. Julia still harbored resentment toward Harley for imprisoning her because of Frida, and she continuously created obstacles to hinder his search for Frida. Harley showed no unusual reaction upon learning. Just a month later, Julia was sent to Africa, forbidden to return without his permission. The Ives family dared not voice their anger. 2 more years passed. The Ives family had come to live entirely at Harley's mercy. Harley's mom didn't dare to openly urge Harley to marry Hannah, but secretly encouraged Hannah not to give up. Upon hearing that the Kyle family from Country A was returning home, Harley's mom immediately arranged a banquet in Hannah's name to welcome them. Attending the banquet were members of the Kyle family, including Yarrick and the newly rediscovered daughter of the eldest branch, Frida, dressed in a white haute couture gown, descended from the Rolls-Royce arm-in-arm with Yarrick, instantly becoming the center of attention. She is Kyle's family daughter who had been missing for over 20 years. Frida seemed like a completely different person. In the past, Harley's mom always said she looked like a pheasant even dressed in phoenix robes. That a person's temperament wouldn't change just because of luxury clothes, and that she reeked of poverty from her very bones. But now, her every smile exuded elegance, her every movement radiated nobility. Harley, who was exchanging pleasantries with someone, seemed to sense something. He glanced toward the entrance and froze in place the moment his eyes landed there. His gaze fixed intently on Frida. The dazzling lights seemed to dim instantly. His eyes could see only her, standing there, radiant and brilliant. Frida also noticed his stare and casually looked over. Harley had changed a lot too. His features had grown sharper, colder, and his entire demeanor seemed gloomier than before. As he looked at her, his eyes seemed to hold countless unspoken words. Frida just glanced briefly before averting her gaze. She had long stopped loving him. So this is the eldest daughter of the Kyle family. Truly beautiful. Indeed, seeing is believing. They say the Kyle family returned this time to arrange a marriage for their eldest daughter. I wonder which family will be so fortunate. Frida gazed at the sycophants before her, feeling a chill in her heart. How utterly hypocritical they were. Yet among them were those who had once insulted and oppressed her. Had they truly failed to recognize her? Frida merely brushed off the thought. With no intention of dwelling on it further, after all these years, she had come to understand the twisted intricacies of high society all too well. She is now Kyle family's precious daughter, the object of everyone's flattery, and no one dares to look down on her anymore. She should also thank Harley and those who hurt her for spreading her videos everywhere. It allowed Mrs. Shu, who had been searching for her daughter, to see the birthmark on the back of her neck, giving her the chance to be reunited with her biological parents. Back then, Frida left Harley, intending to settle in any random small town, but unexpectedly found her path blocked by a group of men in suits. Mother Shu stepped out of the car, tearfully claiming she was the Kyle family's long-lost daughter. After a paternity test, it was confirmed she truly was the Kyle family's daughter. She was taken to Country A, where after 2 years of rigorous training and education, she became a qualified heiress of high society. Frida followed Yarrick into the venue, but Yarrick was pulled aside for socializing, leaving her standing alone. As the approaching figure drew near, Frida offered a polite smile. "Long time no see, Frida." Harley's voice trembled slightly, his whole demeanor appearing somewhat nervous, his gaze firmly fixed on Frida. "Hello, Mr. Harley," Frida responded with detachment. "Frida, how have you been all these years? I've been searching for you." "You, Mr. Harley, for business matters you can find my brother. As for personal affairs, we're not acquainted." "Excuse me," Frida interrupted him and walked past. The indifference in her eyes was like a sharp blade, plunging deep into his heart. In that instant, he seemed to hear the sound of his heart breaking. Instinctively, he grabbed her wrist and stepped closer, trying to pull their relationship back to what it once was. "Frida, don't treat me like this. You know my difficulties. The Ives family has been pressing me too hard," he began to explain, only to meet Frida's even colder gaze. Frida shook off his hand and coldly exposed him. "Was it really the Ives family pressing you? Or did you also think that someone like me back then wasn't good enough for you?" Frida continued walking forward. "Frida, wait for me." Harley froze momentarily, overwhelmed with panic. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed her, his voice trembling slightly. "I truly know I was wrong about what happened before. You can hit me or scold me however you want, just please don't leave me. Give me a chance. Let's start over." Frida felt the continuous warmth transmitted from her wrist and looked up at Harley, an inexplicable irritation rising in her heart. She forcefully pulled her hand from his grasp and took a step back to widen the distance between them, her tone tinged with displeasure. "Us, start over, Harley. There hasn't been an us for a long time. From the moment you deceived me with that fake marriage certificate, our fate was sealed. You didn't care at all back then, so why talk about starting over now?" Frida's evident mockery and coldness pierced Harley's heart like 10,000 needles, bringing a sharp, suffocating pain. "Let me explain. I didn't register our marriage for real because I was afraid I might die. It's just that later, you thought I wasn't good enough for you anymore." Frida interrupted him with a cold laugh. "Harley, we're both adults. Some things don't need to be spelled out." Harley trembled. He never imagined Frida would know these things, nor that one day she would despise him so much. But more than anything, what he couldn't accept was her leaving. He stepped closer, his eyes full of pleading. "Frida, you still love me, don't you? We're clearly in love. You can't leave me." "Love?" Hearing this, Frida found it utterly laughable. Her eyes brimmed with mockery, and her gaze toward him grew several degrees colder. "Harley, do you even understand what love is? You're the last person here qualified to speak of it." Harley froze momentarily, his palms breaking into a cold sweat as if someone had seized him by the throat. He had never seen such an imposing Frida before. Her eyes held no tenderness, no affection, only boundless indifference. Harley felt a pang of heartache. He opened his mouth hesitantly, wanting to explain, but didn't know what to say. Frida looked at him and scoffed. "Never thought I'd see the day when Mr. Harley would wear such a wronged expression. Anyone who didn't know better would think I was the one who wronged you." Hearing this, he shook his head hurriedly. "No, everything back then was my fault. I thought I could control how things unfolded, but I failed to protect you and let you suffer so much. Can you give me another chance? We loved each other so deeply back then. I thought you'd wait for my explanation, but you left without even looking back. If Mr. Harley stopped me just to say these meaningless words, then let's not waste each other's time any longer." She took a deep breath, forced a polite, formulaic smile, and her emotions settled back into calmness. After saying this, she didn't linger but turned and left directly. Harley was about to chase after her when Yarrick, who had stepped forward, blocked him. His cold eyes bore into Harley. "Mr. Harley, I heard everything. My sister was covered in wounds back then. Did you think a simple apology could erase everything? My sister may be generous, but the rest of us Kyles are anything but forgiving. Every single person who's wronged my sister will pay." Yarrick leaned forward, whispering into Harley's ear. "Mr. Harley, are you ready?" Harley barely managed to steady his swaying figure, casting a deep glance at Frida's retreating back. Indeed. How could those who've hurt Frida be let off so easily? Yarrick walked over to Frida, introducing her to all the local dignitaries. Hannah, who had been watching from the side, was pushed all the way by Harley's mom until she stood before Yarrick. "So it really is Frida. I never imagined your true identity would be Kyle's daughter," Harley's mom said resentfully. Frida glanced at her politely but didn't respond. She then nudged Hannah beside her. "Hannah, you're also Kyle's daughter. Why aren't you greeting your brother and sister?" Hannah bit her lip and lowered her gaze in silence. "Since when did Kyle's family have this sister?" Yarrick sneered at Hannah. "Oh right, she's the daughter of the villa's housekeeper." Boom. Hannah's face flushed crimson instantly, her blood running cold. She was merely the housekeeper's daughter at Kyle's home. Only by the kindness of Kyle's family was she allowed to eat, live, and attend school alongside their children. Who would have thought she'd actually run back pretending to be Kyle family's daughter? She does have some skills, and the Kyle family didn't make a fuss about it. Little did anyone expect she'd dare bully Frida. This insult, Yarrick simply couldn't swallow. "I heard you made a bet with my sister, and even taught her what upper-class love is supposed to be." Yarrick gripped Hannah's chin, studying her with amused interest. Hannah shuddered violently, shaking her head repeatedly as she pointed at Harley's mom, saying, "It wasn't me. She told me to drive Miss White away. It was all her idea. She said Miss White wasn't good enough for Mr. Harley." Harley's mom was stunned for a moment, then raised her hand and slapped her. "What nonsense are you spouting? You liar, a nanny's daughter pretending to be a wealthy heiress. You made me lose my real daughter-in-law from a noble family." Harley's mom couldn't contain her anger and slapped her again, even harder. Hannah was struck so hard her head snapped to the side, tears instantly streaming down her face. The banquet guests crowded around to watch the spectacle. The dignified matriarch of the top elite family publicly brawling with someone. What a disgrace to the Ives family's reputation. Harley quickly had someone pull them apart and take them away, wanting to explain and apologize to Frida, but she had already turned and left, not even sparing him a glance. As Frida and Yarrick left, the others gradually dispersed as well. The Ives family's mistake of mistaking fish eyes for pearls became a laughingstock, and those who had previously sought to curry favor with the Ives family now chose to wait and see. The Kyle family's return to the country for development was an opportunity for everyone, and all attention was now focused on the Kyle family. Frida was invited to several events where many people fawned over her, eager to befriend her. Frida responded with distant politeness, unwilling to grow close to anyone. Harley approached her multiple times, only to be turned away at the door each time. He didn't give up, sending one by one all the things Frida loved from the castle to the villa at Kyle's house. He would even dress up as a plush toy, holding her favorite flowers while waiting outside Kyle's villa, just to catch a glimpse of her. Frida ignored him every time, treating him with icy indifference. Unwilling to spare him even a glance, he blamed all of this on those who had bullied her. During this period, people kept disappearing, and upon closer inspection, each case was more or less connected to those who had once humiliated Frida. Harley captured several influencers who had participated in the livestream and imprisoned them in the castle along with Hannah. Harley was in no hurry to harm them, instead locking them away in a pitch-black basement. 3 days passed. Their initial rage gradually gave way to weakness, their loud shouts dwindled into faint sobs, and their desperate attempts to escape turned into resigned waiting for death. When the door finally opened, a faint glimmer of hope still flickered in their eyes. "Let me out." The first to speak was Hannah. The moment she saw Harley, A glimmer of light appeared in her eyes. Struggling to her feet, she lunged toward him. Harley violently kicked her away, his eyes filled with undisguised disgust and hatred. Looking at her as if she were trash, Hannah collapsed to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. "Mr. Harley, you can't treat me like this. I've devoted myself to the company, if not for merit, then at least for my hard work. The company won't miss you. You should have known this would happen when you schemed against Frida. Was it you who told Frida the marriage certificate was fake?" I was wrong. I'll apologize. It was all Mrs. Ives who made me do it. Let me go." Harley looked at her coldly. "My mother has already retired to a nursing home. As for you, you'll receive punishment just like them. What do you want to do?" Hannah trembled in fear as she stared at his expressionless face. "Nothing much, just making a movie starring you." Harley curled his lips into a chilling smile and signaled for the people outside to enter. "Follow these scripts and make sure they perform well. As for the rest, feel free to improvise." Harley was determined to repay Frida's past humiliations 100-fold upon them. They slandered Frida for selling her body, so he made them all trade their bodies for food. They had Frida doxxed and cursed at, so he made their families suffer the same fate. "I'll make them wish they were dead," Harley coldly spat out before leaving the basement. The heavy door closed, yet it couldn't muffle the agonized screams from within. Harley found Frida once again. At that moment, she had just stepped out of an antique shop, holding a treasure she had found for her brother. As she was about to get into the car, Harley suddenly appeared and hugged her tightly. "Frida, I've dealt with everyone who bullied you. The Ives family is also mine now. Come back with me. Let's live well together." "Harley, are you insane?" Frida darkened her expression and shoved him away abruptly. "I won't go back with you. Don't do anything reckless, you'll ruin yourself." "Frida, are you worried about me? You still care?" Harley laughed, speaking excitedly. "I knew you still loved me, Frida. Don't worry, they got what they deserved. Everyone who hurt you will be punished." Frida watched the emotionally unstable Harley, instinctively feeling a flicker of fear. She slowly stepped back, trying to increase the distance between them. As if noticing Frida's movement, Harley suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist, forcefully pulling her into his embrace and holding her tightly. "Frida, don't keep thinking about leaving me. I love you so much. Don't go. You used to be so obedient," he whispered softly against her ear. Frida's expression turned grave as she tightly clutched the hem of her clothes, her knuckles turning white from the force. She sensed Harley's abnormality and couldn't help feeling afraid. Speaking softly, "Okay, I won't leave, I won't go. Let me go first. You're squeezing me so tight I can't breathe." Harley loosened his tense body slightly, slowly releasing Frida. Before she could catch her breath, a sharp shout came from behind her. "Harley, let go of my sister." Yarrick appeared with his men, instinctively moving to take Frida away. "Don't come any closer," Harley roared to stop them, grabbing Frida again. "She's mine. No one can take her away. We're going home." Harley forcibly took Frida into the car, ramming through Yarrick's bodyguards before speeding all the way to the castle. Harley took Frida to the basement to see what had become of those people. The moment the door opened, Frida couldn't hold back and vomited. The bloody scenes inside were too horrifying to behold. With various odors mingling together that assaulted the senses, Frida vomited until dizzy and disoriented. Crouching on the ground to steady herself, Harley approached and crouched before her, tentatively asking for her thoughts. "So, those who bullied you have gotten their comeuppance. Are you satisfied?" She looked up at Harley, his expression calm, his eyes sincere, as if genuinely seeking her forgiveness. After some thought, she looked at the face before her that had remained aloof from start to finish and shook her head. Harley froze momentarily, then softened his expression again, his eyes filled with indulgence. "Not satisfied? What more do you want? Shouldn't the one who truly deserves punishment be you?" Frida's voice was like ice, piercing through him and freezing him in place. Her blood ran cold inch by inch. Harley wanted to pretend she hadn't understood, instinctively trying to flee. But Frida grabbed her hand, forcing her to stop. "Harley, the person who least wants to see me isn't Harley's mom, not Hannah or those rich people, it's you. Every time you see me, you're forced to remember those wretched days. You look down on the poor, yet you've been poor yourself. You love me, yet you think I'm not good enough for you. It was you who deceived me with a fake marriage. You who thought I'd embarrass you and refused to acknowledge me publicly. You let them bully me because you wanted to emphasize the class divide between us. Harley, admit it. Harley wanted to deny it. He opened his mouth to say it wasn't true, to say he loved her, but suddenly every single incident from the past came flooding back into his mind. He clutched his head and crouched down in agony. No, that's not how it is. I do love you. Frida stood up and walked step by step toward the exit. No, you love yourself, from beginning to end. You've been weighing pros and cons for your own sake. If I were still Frida, would you go to such lengths to beg for my forgiveness? Frida's words continued, each one like an ice pick stabbing into his heart, every breath laced with needle-like pain. No, he loved Frida. Harley rose, wanting to chase after her and explain. When the castle doors burst open with a bang, Yarrick arrived with a swarm of police officers, surrounding him. Brother, you scared me to death. Silly girl, don't be afraid. Yarrick stroked her hair, pulled her into his embrace, and then kissed her lips. Frida hugged him back, drowning in the tenderness and sense of security he brought. Harley widened his eyes in disbelief at the scene before him. His heart felt as if weighed down by a 1,000-pound boulder, sinking endlessly, threatening to tear his entire heart from his chest. He had never imagined the day would come when he'd see Frida locked in a passionate kiss with another man, so it turned out. His Frida really didn't love him anymore, so it turned out, his Frida had long abandoned him. Tears blurred his vision as Harley was escorted by the police, yet he refused to take another step forward. Frida, isn't he your brother? Aren't you the heiress of the Kyle family? Why would you too? He questioned hysterically. Frida pulled away from Yarrick's embrace and looked at Harley. His Kyle's adopted son. We share no blood relation nor any legal sibling ties. We can date, we can marry. We weren't planning to make our relationship public. Congratulations, you're the first to know. Frida finished speaking and nestled back into Yarrick's arms. Yarrick lifted her up and carried her out, leaving behind Harley's hysterical screams. No, you're mine, we're husband and wife, we're married. Frida, don't go with him. Frida acted as if she hadn't heard, clinging tightly to Yarrick's neck, gradually distancing herself from the castle Harley had built for her. For a time, Harley's arrest was all over the news, severely impacting the Harley Corporation. The stock market was in turmoil, and it was acquired by the Kyle family. Harley was charged with illegal confinement, unlawful bodily harm, and involuntary manslaughter, among other crimes. During the interrogation, his mental instability was discovered. After a series of examinations, he was diagnosed with severe mental illness and confined to a psychiatric hospital. Harley was initially extremely manic every day. Resorting to various methods to harm himself, he used his teeth to carve Frida's name into his arm. He clamored to see Frida every day, but Frida kept refusing him. When he saw the news of Frida and Yarrick being interviewed, he suddenly fell silent. Frida was so radiant and dazzling, shining into his heart like light, as if he was being redeemed once more. He stopped wallowing in self-pity and even began cooperating actively with his treatment. He needed to recover quickly, to go out and see Frida, to tell her that he loved her, but what he didn't know was that Grandpa Ives had made arrangements. He would never leave the mental hospital for the rest of his life. Frida and Yarrick ultimately chose to return to Country A to live. On a warm spring day when flowers bloomed everywhere, she and Yarrick held a grand castle wedding, where she wore crystal shoes that Yarrick had personally crafted for her. They hung 100 colorful crystal apples together on the glazed tree. Frida, I love you. This tree will never wither, nor will my love for you fade. I love you too. They made 100 wishes together, then fulfilled them one by one. The end.